So Ryan, thank you very much for agreeing to have a chat with me. It would be really good if you could just talk to me a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into property.
Yeah. Well, I never really had a full intention of getting into property the way I have, to be honest. So there's quite a lot, I think your property journey kind of takes you in loads of different ways that you never really expect. I didn't know what a HMO was or what Airbnb was, and, we're quite heavily involved in that. I certainly didn't know about sort of controlling and creative strategies as well as, buy, refurbish, refinance. But I just wanted to, so I used to be a financial advisor. Technically still am qualified, but obviously don't practice. I used to be a mortgage advisor as well. So I just kind of wanted a pension fund. I didn't have a pension. I just thought, well, I'll buy a few little buy-to-lets and that'll kind of do. And from that, you just kind of start reading a bit more and learning a bit more about the industry and, listening to podcasts and, audiobooks and what have you. And you just start trying different things. And before you know it, you've got a full-scale property business that does all sorts and, employs people. We continue to strive and push for more and more and more, and which is great, obviously, but there was no firm intention there to do that from the beginning. I actually had a property, my first ever property that I bought. It cost me over probably 10 grand with bad tenants, just by being a terrible landlord and not really knowing what I was doing. So that put me off for quite some time. So
So when was that? How old were you?
That was like 2007 I bought that. So it did probably put me off for quite a number of years, really. And then you kind of build the courage up to go at it again and try it. But this time with probably a lot more knowledge and obviously learn from the mistakes and probably around sort of 2011, 2012, sort of, I think coaching and mentorships and things like that were a lot more common, and obviously the internet was growing a lot by then, so you could get access to a lot more information, which I think is really good nowadays, where you can get a lot of information that you probably couldn't get 20-25 years ago, so
absolutely.
So then that makes it good. And I don't know where it's going to take us, but I'm enjoying the journey so far, and we're getting more and more people involved in it, and we keep pushing into different new avenues, and so it's enjoyable, which is the main thing. And I think that's one thing that people love about the property game, is the freedom it kind of gives you, although it is hard work if you want to make it work. But you can you do it on your schedule, and it's you push in whatever direction you want. I know some people are quite happy to just get 5 or 6 cash flow and 3 grand a month, and that's it, they're done. They're quite happy with that. I personally have bigger aspirations than that, and I want to continue to push it as hard as I can for probably the next 3 or 4 years, and then probably at that point decide what I want to do. But at the meantime, it's just as much as we can get, as quick as we can get it.
Absolutely. I think it is hard work, as you say it. When you started, did you start in property full time, or was it something that you did alongside other things?
Alongside other things. So I've kind of always been self-employed as such, to an extent, and just always ran stuff, alongside various businesses, which I still do to this day. Still involved in other things as well. So, but it does. I think it can take as much or as little time as you want. The last 3 days I've probably not done that much, in all honesty. And then I've come in today just because I know we've got a few completions happening. We've got a few offers on the table out there. One which has been accepted. So just I knew today was going to be a busy day. So it's just a day for sort of being in the office and trying to move things forward. But there are days when you don't have to be doing a load of stuff. Now it doesn't mean that my business isn't moving forward, because I'll probably have 20 cleaners out and about doing serviced accommodation cleans. We'll have, I've got guys on the ground searching for properties and stuff like that. So the business is still ticking forward. It's just me personally, I'm not actually, doing as much anymore. I tend to just kind of make decisions as much as I can now and try and steer people in the right direction and help people grow as well, which obviously I like to do. I like to grow my own team, and I like to. They all have targets and they all have to achieve certain goals, and it's up to me to get them there. And I feel like I'm responsible for getting them there. And then obviously we've got the mentees on the mentorship, and again I feel responsible to try and get them to where they want to go as well. So.
So how do you tend to manage your time? I think when you've got so many things going on at once, do you try to structure your day so that it works for you? Because I've heard many people saying that it is quite difficult managing your time, especially when you're doing property. And for example, as you do, you mentor people and arrange courses and training as well.
So. 2 kids, young kids, so they take a bit of time.
Exactly.
I've always been quite organised as a person, and I think that is probably a good skill set to have when you're trying to juggle a lot of stuff. We use Asana as our main sort of CRM system for most of our, or if not all of our operations, so it links every side of it up. I've kind of designed it that way. So I am quite good with technology and systems, so I've kind of designed Asana to suit my business rather than, say, buying an off-the-shelf rental software or, an off-the-shelf sort of, whilst we use channel managers, they plug into Asana. So, and I use Asana for my own personal stuff as well. So I don't just have to-do lists. One thing I find with to-do lists are they don't necessarily get done. So I always say, when I'm coaching people or even myself or my staff, if we have a to-do list, it has to have a deadline on it. And I think that serves well. So don't just write on a task and not have a set deadline when it needs to be done. I tend to, and I still do this myself, I'll set a deadline in Asana and I'll put a date on it, and that date has to be achieved. And then I just make sure that doesn't go overdue. So it kind of almost keeps you that pressure on you to get your tasks done. And I find that keeps me moving forward and make sure I don't forget anything. Which is quite easy when you're spinning quite a lot of plates.
Yeah, it can be, yeah, definitely. So you've been doing this for quite a number of years, I imagine. And what would you say would be sort of the biggest challenges you came across in property? Like maybe 1 or 2, the ones that kind of you learned most from it?
Not starting sooner, obviously. I think everyone kind of says that. Because it works, and once you get it going, you kind of wish you'd done it 10 years earlier or straight out of school. Yeah. But probably not getting educated enough, quick enough. I am quite good at soaking up knowledge, and I'll go all into stuff. So, but again, reading a book takes time, or listening to a book takes time, or waiting for a webinar next week to show you something, it takes time. Whereas I kind of wish I'd worked with someone or kind of followed a few people a bit sooner. But in terms of operationally, not discovering control and strategy soon enough. I think whilst you can have money and you can do buy-refurbish-refinance or whatever your sort of investment strategy is, it is quite a slow process. Even if you've got it as slick as we have it now, you're still looking at probably 3-4 months before you sort of. Well, if you include the acquisition and that, you're probably 5 months before you see start to finish of that. Whereas you can pick up rentals, today, tomorrow, and you can move in, and you can start operating the day after or the week after, depending on what's required. So I think some people as well also don't want control and strategies in their portfolio, which I find a bit strange, because for me, it's about cash flow. And if you do it right, you can easily get some really good cash flow from other people's properties. So if you can pick them up quickly and get good cash flow, then why wouldn't you want to do it? It's only a risk if you've got poor due diligence and you don't know what you're doing. And I guess on that note as well, when you are buying, I fell into the habit of, I do buy, refurbish, refinance. So I had a pot of money, I'd buy a property, and then I would wait until that money was back in my bank account before I'd go back out and search for properties. Mm-hmm. But because you don't actually pay your deposits until literally the day of or the week of your completion, you could have been outsourcing properties still whilst you were kind of waiting for the initial project to get completed and refinanced. And, you know, as long as you know what's going to happen, then you're going to have the money and you can then move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. So that definitely slowed me down quite a lot. And I almost spend money now when we haven't got money, but I know that we'll have the money to fund the purchases based on sort of the cash flow projections that we do. So that's definitely speeded things up in the last couple of years by changing that mindset. And then the biggest shift for me was releasing control to other people and not getting sucked into the operations as much. Mm-hmm. So when you are building quickly, it is easy to try and do everything yourselves, and you know, you want to try and save a few pence here and there, but really it actually suffocates you and it stops you actually generating more money in the business. So now I very much try and avoid doing anything for the business, and I try and just make decisions and, you know, build relationships and sort of look at that end, because for me, that's what brings money into the business. And then I kind of prefer to pay other people to do the doing tasks of the business, so we can, you know, so I can focus on acquiring more property into the business, because ultimately that's how we're going to get more cash flow, or obviously, you know, do more in the academy and the training side of things and bring more people in through that as well. So that, for me, that's one of the biggest things that I see, especially, you know, I wouldn't class myself as a landlord. I don't want to be a landlord. I have no interest in managing properties. I've got no interest in managing tenants or guests, but my business does do that. But we just have certain systems and processes in place and people in place, and good people at that, to do those jobs, because they're much better at those jobs as well. I am quite impatient, so, you know, I am, and I'll admit that. And so when a guest can't figure a lockbox code out, you know, I'm probably not the best person to speak to on that front, because I am quite impatient. You know, so there are certain tasks as well that your business needs that maybe you're not the best at, and you should be leveraging those out. You know, I don't know how to put a curtain pole up properly, you know, so I'm not going to try and do that, you know. So so I'd say they're kind of the three main things that I've learned over the years. And if I was to start again, I would do that from day one, and I think you'd be in a much bigger position, you know, again than we are now. So
yeah, as you say, you've got people and good people that are working with you. So how would you say you find the people that you can trust, actually? Because, you know, I see that you might want to have a builder, for example, working for you, and there's 10 that would want to do that, but you don't really know who to trust. So do you ask for people's recommendations, or like, how do you find people that you can actually trust?
I think you've got to, when you're talking about builders, I think you've got to, recommendations is good, but I am actually in a court case at the minute with a builder that was recommended to me by a landlord that I still do a lot of work with. So recommendations aren't always like, yeah, he did a great job for him, but over a number of years, but then he like tried to pull a fast one on me and didn't complete a project. And, you know, so that didn't necessarily pan out how you would think, or get a good referral off someone you work closely with. And, you know, so, and obviously the landlord that I work with is devastated that we're in the position we're in, because he feels guilty, but it's not his fault, you know. So, but I think you're probably, with builders, it's just testing, unfortunately, and building those relationships up. So, you know, you'll always need a few of everything. You know, you say if you've got your main plumber, well, they could be on holiday when you need them, so you're always going to maybe need a reserve. Same with electricians, you know, they're very busy electricians, so you're always going to need a couple, because you might not be able to get the one you want all the time. So over the years, we've kind of just built a really good power team of a core group of guys that we use regularly. We've got a WhatsApp group, so all the sort of core people that we use are in the WhatsApp group, and we kind of just, the office just kind of drops the job into the group, and then whoever kind of comes forward for it first, you know, we kind of look to work with. I have had an instant where we had 2 tiny flats above each other, and I needed to work the electrician, and 2 electricians came back exactly the same. So we just split it. So one took the top flat, one took the bottom flat. So it was fine in the end. But
that worked out.
To get into the group, we have to have worked with them for some time, and we have to, you know, have trusted them, and we work well with them. They're quick. They know what we want. I mean, it's great the way we've got it running at the minute. It is literally Like the guys will go, they'll actually go and pick the keys up from the completions, go straight to the property, drill a lockbox on, and then they know what work we need doing. You know, quite often now I don't really go near properties. It's just crunching the numbers and sorting the lending and things like that out. Obviously we have the right people doing all that stuff, but me personally, I don't do that so much anymore. But you know, our guys, you know, they've just been in a 5-bed HMO this week and sorting all that out, and they don't even really need to ring and ask what we want, because they know what we want, because we try and bounce them from project to project to project. So you know, so they are our guys really. You know, they pretty much work for us as much as probably, you know, 50-60% of their work will come from us, if not more. You know, and because we keep them busy, we try and just keep them from one thing to the next, because they're obviously always going to be looking for work. So if you're not keeping them busy, they can quite quickly disappear as well, and then you get stuck and you're always chasing your tail. And then that's actually how I ended up with this wrong builder, because I had 3 things on the go with all my regular guys, and because we take things on bridging loans, obviously you want to get them done quickly. So I kind of put my trust in somebody else, and you know, and we are where we are. But so yeah, it's a tough one. I think you've just got to, it's trial and error mainly, and working with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as probably many would know, and from what you just said, it just comes with experience, isn't it? Because you'd never know really. With someone who you just met, it could work out really well. But then with others, it just doesn't, even though somebody, like you say, recommended it to you. So yeah, exactly.
You can always start them on smaller stuff as well, and just see how quickly they do it and what the work's like, and how quickly they invoice you for it and things like that. One good thing I do, which I think makes people want to work with me, is I pay my invoice as soon as I get it. So any job, even if it's a 30-day term or a 40-day term, the minute it hits the account, I authorize that to get paid. And I think that, again, just builds that credibility, because, you know, quite a lot of these tradespeople are sort of, you know, they haven't got large amounts of cash flow sometimes, and they do sometimes work a bit close to the line, and they've got to pay their guys and materials and stuff like that. So I think they really appreciate it when you pay them straight away. They're not having to chase you, and then we just move on to the next job. So that's one thing that has kind of served me well. I've always paid my bills on time, and I think with tradesmen it goes a long way. Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right, and you're not the first person I hear it from, because I've heard it from other people saying that, you know, pay your builders on time, because it then makes you more credible, and you know, it builds that trust as well. So so they would be willing to work with you in the future. So I think that's really good advice. So I guess I also wanted to ask, what would you say for people who are already investing or want to start investing? Do you have any other sort of key advice, like maybe 1 or 2 things that you can think of that would be really important to know before they kind of go ahead with their journey?
Yeah, I think anybody that's pitching that it's no money down and quick sort of get rich quick stuff isn't really investing in property in my eyes. I think it is hard work, but it is satisfying hard work, if that makes sense. You know, there's nothing better than, you know, even before, you know, my brother rings me and tells me we've got another property secured. Well, we've bought a hell of a lot of property over the years, but it's still, every time you get that phone call to say you've got another one, it is a good feeling, you know. So it's like a little win. But I think you've got to, don't go into it half-heartedly, because it's not a half-hearted thing. You know, I've seen many people who've bought these deals off rent to SA deal sources and rent to rents, you know, and they haven't done their own due diligence, and you could say that they're at fault for that, but you know, unfortunately there's a lot of people prey on vulnerable people out there, and they're quite happy to collect that fee and then disappear, and unfortunately they get left with the burden of the financial debt and stuff. So get educated before you do anything. You'd be better off spending 3 or 4 months on the sidelines learning everything before you invest a penny than trying to like invest after a couple of weeks of reading one book and then thinking you know it all, and then getting burnt big time. Because if you get burnt, or even if you've got 20, 30 grand to invest in a buy, refurbish, refinance deal, but if you don't get the numbers right, it could be the last deal that you invest in, because that money could get tied up for quite some time. So you've got to really know what you're doing, but at the same time, don't sit on the sidelines too long, and don't sit behind a laptop too long. So I also see that side of it as well, where people are too scared to actually take the jump and take the leap. And I think at the same time, you do need experience as well, and you've got to learn from your mistakes. So you've got to get out there at some point, and you've got to go on viewings, and you've got to talk to people, and you've got to make some offers, and so you kind of have to get out and do that part of it as well, because if you don't do that, well, you're never going to get anything. So it's kind of finding that fine balance between the two, I guess.
Yeah. So do you think, because many people either go for sort of the standard buy-to-lets as in the beginning of the journey, because it's fairly easy to understand, but others are more focused on, for example, rent-to-rents or lease option agreements. So if, for example, there would be someone, with 20,000 in their pocket, would you rather say it would be more worth to build a cash flow with like rent-to-rents or lease options, or just go for the safer option with buy-to-lets?
Yeah, again, this comes down to area. 20 grand isn't going to get you very far down south, but up north, obviously, it might. So it depends on your strategy in your area. I would probably be, if a mentee came to me and said they had 20 grand, I would probably say, right, how can we turn 20 grand into 40 grand? And that for me is how I look at money and business and coaching. I think property is just the product, and we're kind of like, how do we use that product to turn more money into more money? Ultimately, obviously, you want to build your own asset portfolio, because then you control that. It's your foundation. Obviously on a rent-to-rent deal, it could get pulled from you at any time. But if you build relationships and stuff, then it shouldn't. But I am massively in favour of covering all strategies at all times from day one. I don't see why you can't go out and view a property and it might not work as a purchase, but then why not talk about a lease option, or why not talk about a rent-to-rent on it types, So by knowing everything, it gives you a bit more of a skill set to be able to go and speak with confidence and try and work a deal out that works for everybody.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's about cash flow at the start. I've not met anyone yet, or spoke to anyone yet really, that said, I'm going to get into property for asset growth in 30 years time. Most people I want to get into property to get my £2,500-3,000 a month, so I quit my job, and then from that I want to build my own, business. And so it's a case of, well, how do we get that recurring cash flow as quickly as possible? For me, it's creative strategies and controlling strategies. And then as time builds and as the cash flow builds, then you start to look at, buying your own stuff and going that way. So that would be my recommendation. It doesn't always work that way. I think, everyone's different, but I do think it's not a bad play anyway.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So thank you very much. I think there's been loads of great advice from experience and examples as well. So if people wanted to find you, sign up, because you do training and mentorship. So if people wanted to find you, where can we find you and sign up for the training, or just have a chat with you or join your Facebook group? What's your
anyone can hit me up on Facebook and just send me a message. I am quite responsive, and I think that's one good thing that one bit of good feedback I get from people on the academy is how responsive I kind of am. lukeholmesacademy.co.uk is kind of my website for all the training stuff. So whatever we've got going on at whatever time, everything is pretty much on there. But just get in touch, if anyone wants to learn. We've got various groups, got various WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, so and everyone in there is fairly like-minded. Everyone just wants to get into property, or are already in property and doing it, and just wants to make it a better journey for themselves.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, how many people are you mentoring at the moment?
Which I try not to take too many on each month, because one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to just have, I know there's bigger training academies out there and they get loads of people in a room and they do these crash courses and stuff like that, but that's not my mentality. I think one thing that I've done is I've really studied other people's programs, and a couple of things that kicked out were limited number of phone calls, i.e. one phone call every 2 weeks or whatever it is, and recorded live stage sort of stuff rather than actual specific content. So I've made my program very support intensive. So if someone needs me in the next half an hour and they're on the program, they can ring me. More than likely I'll answer the phone and I'll give them an answer. If they need to jump on a Zoom call and solve a problem, we do that, So I don't want to be taking on 20, 30 people a month, because I wouldn't be able to have enough time to remain and keep the quality there for people. So I try and limit it to sort of a handful of people each month, and then I feel like we get a lot more out of that, both of us, and it allows me to obviously focus on the business which is buying property as well. So I've got to be careful with my time as well as everyone else's. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people should appreciate that, because there are other training providers, like you say, having loads of people, like hundreds of people in the room, and it's kind of a lot of them were saying that they lack that one-to-one support, because the business is so big, and 100 people can't be supported one-to-one on quite a regular basis. So I think it's really nice that you actually kind of care about them, and which makes absolute sense. So
it was one thing that I just, as soon as I made the program, I was adamant I was going to do it that way. There's various ways to do it, and I don't think putting people in a room and giving them a 4-day intensive on how to teach property is the right thing, because a lot of stuff's forgotten about by the time they get to that point. So it's all well and good, they'll leave there, they'll start trying to acquire property, but it could be 3-4 months before they get their first serviced accommodation unit. So then they've got to remember how they then set it up and how they do all the bits and bobs, from that initial 4-day course. So I kind of just work with them at each step. So we only talk about stuff that's relevant to their journey at that point in time. And then as they go further forward, we kind of add more and more content into it. I think the thing with mentor programs is everything that we teach is out there for free. There's no doubt about that. All we do is keep you focused in the right areas at all times, and it just accelerates your growth. That's all you're paying for, really, is someone to accelerate your journey. So something that might take you 3-4 years to do by yourself, you might be able to get done in 6 months using a mentor, and that's pretty much what you pay for. So.
That I think that's what people need as well, and that accountability and someone to push you forward, because that's probably, I think, the hardest bit, to kind of stay motivated, especially when in property you get a lot of rejection. So staying and keeping that motivation and just having someone to
we have I've set up, like, we have various pods. So we have like WhatsApp pods, so depending on where you're at in the program, or we have a top performers pod for the top performers, and kind of strives to be in that pod, and sometimes I don't even need to get involved, because they kind of all start helping each other, which is great, and because if you're in property and you are doing it full time, it can be quite lonely, being, searching deals yourself, viewings yourself, and no team interaction and stuff. So it's quite nice to see how they all kind of work together and help each other out, and they're all on the same program, getting taught the same stuff. So it flows quite nicely, and again, that was one that I set up from the start and has worked quite well. So
brilliant. Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah, and I did find as well that people in property, there are a lot that are willing to help each other. It's just kind of a community. So when you get involved in like WhatsApp groups or LinkedIn and just conversations, you can kind of get the feeling of community, really, because definitely there are people who are willing just only to kind of gain benefit for themselves, but there are a lot willing to help and give you advice and kind of answer your questions. So I think that's absolutely great.
No, it's a good industry. It's enjoyable. So
brilliant. Okay, so I don't think I've got any more questions, and I really appreciate you sharing your experience, examples, and everything. So thanks very much, and I hope we keep in touch and catch up soon.